Welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you for joining us for the fourth Flatirons Food Film Festival Dinner and a Movie film screening. Like I said, this is the fourth one. This is the final one for a little while. It's the final live event for a month or so. More to come on that in a moment. As always, please bear with us tonight as we may have technical glitches. You'd think after a couple of months of meetings from home and Zoom conference calls with every family member that we would have this nailed down, but technology. This is the first time it hasn't performed as expected. If you're enjoying dinner with us at home tonight, please share the pictures of your hot dogs. Keep it clean, but share some pictures. We'd love to see what you have. You can put them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or you can email them to our director at Flatirons Food Film Festival. All of the hashtags, the email address are going to be in the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. And the chat feature is going to come in handy if you have questions for either our technical team or for our panelists tonight. So look there if you have any questions and reach out if you have any comments. We'd love to hear from you. So what we can expect this evening, we will hear from our speaker, Doug Sohn. He will be introducing the movie, Hot Doug's, the movie. That's a lot of Dougs and movies in one sentence, but he'll be introducing it. And then we're gonna watch the movie through the Vimeo URL that you received in your email, and that's also gonna be in the chat feature. There's a password that goes along with that. And then after the movie is over, we'll give you a quick break, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then get started again with Q&A with Doug and Jim Pittinger of Biker Jim's Gourmet Hot Dogs. Let's remember that we're being helped by a lot of individuals, a lot of organizations. Tonight, I'd like to thank our restaurant partners, and they are, of course, Biker Jim's Gourmet Hot Dogs in Denver. In Boulder, Blackbelly and Mustard's Last Stand. In Longmont, Jonny's is our partner, and in Louisville, LuLu's Barbecue. So thanks, guys, for offering hot dog specials tonight and keeping us all fed. Beer goes great with hot dogs. Hot dogs great with beer. I'd like to thank our brewery partner, the Post Brewing Company. They've provided a discount code for their beer. It may be a little late. You may already have your beer for the evening, but this discount code is going to last for about another week after the event. So please go pick some up from them. It's great stuff. Let's see. I'd like to thank River Bear American Meats. Their uncured and lightly smoked hot dogs are great. Look for them in Alfalfa's Markets and in Lever's Locavore in Denver. Thank you to our sponsors. Our Silver Spoon sponsors are the Big Red F Group, Black Cat Bistro, Bramble and Hare, Highland Honey, Local Table Tours, Pack a Fork, Root Marketing and PR, the Savory Spice Shop in Boulder. And additional sponsors, of course, are the Boulder Farmers Market, the International Film Series, and Slow Food of Boulder County. I'd also like to give a very special thanks to Doug Sohn and Jim Pittinger for being with us tonight and speaking and giving us their time. I think they're going to have a lot of interesting things to say. And then I mentioned that this is the last live event for a while, but what we have coming up in the near future, on the weekend of actually the 29th of this month, is the Dinner and a Movie Smorgasbord. What that is it's a pass that will last throughout the weekend. It's $15. It allows you to watch the movies at your leisure. It also will have recordings of the panelists who spoke after those films and before those films to introduce them. So if you missed anything, this would be a great way to catch up. Also, our dinner partner for that weekend will be Pastificio. They're going to be making meal kits and 25% of their sales will go to the festival. It's going to help us continue to put on these types of events and help us march towards putting on a full-blown, most likely web-based film series in October that, of course, we would like you all to be a part of. This is a great way for you to help support us and help us put that on the calendar. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Doug. Doug Sohn is the subject of the film that we're going to be watching tonight. He was the chef owner of Hot Doug's in Chicago, and that was named by Anthony Bourdain one of the top 13 places to eat before you die. High praise from a credentialed individual. So they basically pioneered the gourmet casual concept, and when asked by the Daily Meal if he missed running a restaurant, his response was, you know, I miss food and I really miss a good Chicago style hot dog. And geez, I'd love a good Chicago style hot dog. But anyway, welcome, Doug. Thanks for joining us.
Mute myself. Oh, am I unmuted now, I think?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you. Greg, thank you so much. And thank you to the Flatirons Food Film Festival for inviting me and showing the movie. Apparently, a dozen people saw me fixing my hair as I got on to the Zoom. And I'd like to point out my hair hasn't been this long since high school. So cut me a break, you know, it's been 6-7 years. It's quite a treat to be on here. A little unusual, I'm not gonna lie, but definitely a treat. The quick story is I opened a restaurant, a hot dog restaurant in Chicago as a result of a friend having a bad hot dog one day. And over the course of 13 years, I got to the end of each year and decided, do I have another year in me to run this restaurant? And for the first 12 years, if I can do this math correctly, I said yes and opened up. And at the end of the 12th or 13th year, I realized I was done. I loved it. I had a great time, enjoyed everything about it, but was getting to the point where I might not enjoy everything about it. And that's a terrible position to be in, especially as a restaurant owner. So made the decision to close it up and announced it. And for those of you who own your own business, apparently if you tell people that you're closing your restaurant or business, they go insane. So, but prior to that, a friend of mine who was a filmmaker, Emmy Award winning filmmaker, came to me and said, I think there's a story here. We'd like to film you and sort of the closing of the restaurant. And I thought, all right, part of it was just to have, you know, I was excited to have the document. And the one caveat was, he told me that I would have absolutely no say whatsoever in the movie. And I thought that was fair. You know, I don't know anything about movie making. And I felt fairly confident that it wouldn't be a total hatchet job. It turned out I was correct. It was, people tell me, oh, they love the movie, and I say thank you, and then I realize, of course, I just showed up to work. Someone else made the movie. So I'd like a quick shout out to Christopher Marcos, the director, his brother Nick Marcos, the producer, Marcos Films. I think they just did a wonderful job, and I truly hope that everyone enjoys it. I'll be here to answer some questions. Please don't hesitate to ask anything. About my hair would be no problem. And on that note, I guess it's back to Greg.
Thanks, Doug. I think there are going to be some questions about the Britney Spears picture in the background there, um, and how that
Hold
relates
on.
to.
If I'm unmuted, also the Taylor Swift calendar. So I have to be.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's entertainment at its finest. All right. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to watch the film. It's going to be about 57 minutes running time, and then we're going to give a 10-minute break afterwards for you to go to the bathroom, wash the mustard off your hands, whatever the case may be. I should also mention that Doug donated or sent to us a number of shirts from the restaurant. You will see the shirt in the film. They're hot dogs shirts. There's a nice bundle that you can go ahead and buy if you're interested on our website. And without further ado, our moderator is going to put the URL and password in the chat function, and you will also find it again in your email. So let's sit back and enjoy the movie. I hope everybody has a nice dinner, and we will see you again in an hour and 7 minutes, which will be, 8:50. No, 7:50. All right. I mean, maybe you're not on Mountain Time, and it could be 8:50. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. It was a good film. That was a good. That was a good hour's worth of time. And I'm glad I spent it doing that. I think the coolest quote from that was "Game recognizes game," and I wish I could have been in Chicago for one of those hot dogs. Man, that food looked great. Anyway, before I get into introducing tonight's speakers, I just wanted to remind you that through the chat button on the bottom of your screen, you could join in by submitting questions and participating. Again, the discussion will go where the discussion will go. Hopefully we can incorporate some of your questions, or potentially the discussion is just going to go questionless, and we got a couple of wild guys tonight who are going to be talking about food. They're going to be talking about how food is this day and age and what the restaurant industry looks like. So this is going to be some interesting stuff. Also, I misspoke earlier. The t-shirts that Doug donated are not available on our website, but rather through the Eventbrite page where you bought your tickets. There are shirts that you could buy on their own, and there are also some bundles that include a gift card to Biker Gyms, some stem cider, some Chanel cacao, artisanal chocolate bars, good stuff. The bundles are $25, so a screaming deal, I'd say. Okay, so here we go. So our interviewer tonight, as we mentioned earlier, is Jim Pittinger, also known as Biker Jim. He's the chef owner at Biker Jim's Gourmet Hot Dogs in Denver. He's a former repo man, and he gave up that life to, join the food world and start slinging some gourmet sausages. You used to be able to find him operating out of a tricked out stainless steel cart on Denver's 16th Street Mall, but he's kind of moved on to the Ballpark neighborhood where he's got a brick and mortar business, and he just receives accolade after accolade after award after award. He too is in good company with Anthony Bourdain. He was on No Reservations. He was featured there. So we got a couple of guys, a couple of good culinarians who really have something to say about food, and it's going to be interesting. So, of course, let's welcome back Doug Sohn and Jim Pittinger. Guys, welcome.
Hello and thank you. Jim, get off the pipe and get on the video while we're young.
Welcome, Doug. I got to say, your hair looks great now. It looks good in the video.
Thank you.
So either way, well done.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I always I'm surprised how much younger I looked back in those movie days of yore.
You always looked younger back in the day. What'd you have for dinner tonight?
I actually, I didn't. I had hot dogs last night because we had a Zoom get together of the original hot dog club, which is how I ended up opening the restaurant. So let's pretend it was last night, and I had a smoked Hungarian sausage with dark mustard and cheddar cheese, and a stadium nacho sausage with avocado cream, pepper jack cheese, and crushed tortilla chips. Delicious.
Man, that sounds good. Do you make your own mustard? Or do you buy your mustard?
That one, oh no, you buy mustard. I had a great teacher in culinary school who, whenever he'd get questions like that, someone would ask, well, how do you make, vinegar? His response would always be, what are you, camping? You buy vinegar. So you buy mustard.
Yeah. Looks like we've got Jim joining us now. Jim, you're still on mute.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. Welcome, guys. I'll let you take it from here.
Oh, hey, yeah, nothing like computer issues when it's the most important evening of my life.
You may have to set the bar just a little higher, Jim.
Oh, I don't know about that. Anything, the opportunity to talk to you with that hair has been something I've been waiting for quite some time now.
I've been waiting 40 years to have this hair. So yeah.
I thought you said you when you got out of high school like 6 years ago or 7 years ago.
All right, it may have been a bit. You never know.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Great to
And
hear as well.
a phenomenal movie that was super fun. I mean, it was a little egotistical, but it's not like you had anything to do with it exactly.
That's right. Again, I just showed up for work. This is someone else's view.
I think that's amazing. I think Woody Allen summed it up when he says 90% of life is just showing up.
That's absolutely true. That is,
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer of that.
So the first time I came out must have been, I want to say 2008. I think did a little motorcycle hot dog eating junket in Chicago.
Sure.
Came out to visit our buddy Mark Reitman.
The founder and master of
Hot Dog University. Exactly.
Of which I have an honorary degree. I didn't even have to go.
As do I, although my name was misspelled, so it is a complicated thing. So yeah, it was pretty fun. We stopped by your place first, and I walked in, and lo and behold, the celebrity dog of the day was the biker Jim dog.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, which is what we were serving today, as a matter of fact. Or my homage to the hot dog was the biker Jim dog. A lamb hero sausage with a spicy raita dressing. I added some crispy onions to it. Didn't have duck fat.
Would that be considered meta? I'm not really sure.
Meta wiener? I never met a wiener I didn't like.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, thanks. Always my pleasure. So, and I also was able to make it out. I made it out there, I think 4 times, but I was able to get out there the last week that you were open.
Okay.
We got in line.
I would say I remember that, but that last week may have been somewhat of a blur. It was a little insane.
You think? I got there at 7:10 with some friends. By, I want to say 7:30, there was a line a block long. I think at 9:30, you had to come out and tell all the people that were in line no more people were going to be able to eat that day.
That's right. There were a handful of days towards the end where we stopped the line before we actually opened.
Before you opened, yeah. Yes. All right, and that's when you told me that I should close. It's it's really great for business.
Absolutely, people go nuts. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And actually, up until today, we were closed. Yes. We talked about that a little bit, So sure. I did not give the customers as much warning as you were able to give.
That it was, I think it was like 6 months, and one of the rare times I completely miscalculated sort of reaction. I got pretty good at it, but then I tried to subtly slip it in on our website, and that lasted about 1.5 minutes before like the phone went nuts. I was like, oh yeah, kind of screwed that up. But
yeah, much like the 1 hour prohibition we had in Denver when they shut the city down, the mayor thought it'd be a good idea to stop liquor stores from selling booze and to stop pot shops from selling weed. But he was going to let the restaurants sell booze. I don't know about the weed exactly, but sure. And we're all going, oh, this will be phenomenal. We'll be the only place you can get booze. That lasted about 45 minutes before the mayor went, sorry, no, pretty essential getting your pot. So, I've been trying to get pulled over for not being at home so I could just tell the cop I needed to go score some weed.
Take a shot. That's
right.
Sure.
So I was able to, I was able to feed Bourdain in 2009. So also got on No Reservations. And he was, recently I'd heard about the 13 must go to places before you die, of which.
In print, so it actually must be true. Oddly enough, on Hot Dogs, the book. Very, very creative with our titling.
I've noticed that throughout your whole career, you've been very creative with all that you've done.
Yes.
And so when Bourdain came up to the cart, we're talking about the 13 must go to places, of which I'd been to 2. You know,
Okay.
And we're talking about it, and I made mention that, you know, when I went, that I'd gotten a celebrity dog of the day, and Bourdain's like, "You got a celebrity dog? I didn't get a celebrity dog." So that was one of those moments where I'm, oh, this is a nice day. That was a good day at the office.
That's a nice day. My first memory or meeting him the first time he came in. See what I did there, by the way?
I saw that.
Yes. So it was before we were on the show, and I think he was like on his book tour.
Mhm.
And I looked up, and it was like on a Tuesday, fairly early, like around 11 o'clock. So it wasn't very crowded. And he's a tall person, and I looked up and I saw him like 8 people, you know, behind. And I'd like to apologize to the 8 people in front of him and the 8 to 12 people after him. No idea if I got their order right, and couldn't care less.
Exactly.
Because if you're in that business at that time, he was the guy. And it, you know, him coming in just, I always joke that it's like, you know, the Sistine Chapel, you know, the finger, you know, touching you, like you've been anointed as a person, that he came in. And it, one of the truly great joys and almost like an accomplishment that I got to meet him and chat with him. And his death, like the rare time, like just sent me sobbing.
Right.
You know, one of those like what's going on in the world deals. But it was just one of, I feel just incredibly lucky to have met him and to have had the opportunity to chat with him.
Absolutely. Yeah. He kind of epitomized every, you know, if anybody, any one of us, I think, could have done what he did, you know, we all would have, you know, Mom, I'm sorry, Mom, you know, the kidnappers got your ransoms out, you know, I must go do this.
In a heartbeat. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
I belong to it's sort of a restaurant support group called, Culinary Hospitality Outreach and Wellness. I call it Chefs in Peril. But
Sure.
we had a meeting lined up for weeks to actually get together and just discuss restaurant stuff. You know, what it's like to be a line cook, be an owner, be a writer.
So this is before all the
It was lined up, yeah, before Bourdain decided to go away.
Got it. Okay.
Our first meeting was 2 days after he decided to go away, and
What did you guys talk about?
I don't know, me. You know, no, it was a very well attended meeting.
Yeah.
And we're still going today, you know, so it's been a couple of years. It's still pretty popular.
Awesome.
So a quick question for you.
Sure.
Foie gras was illegal to sell in Chicago when you rolled out with that foie gras drug, was it not?
No. What happened? We had it for a while, and it was a terrific seller. And then what happened? The city of Chicago, out of nowhere, decided to ban. Technically, it was banning restaurants from selling it. So I could buy it, you could eat it. I just physically couldn't sell it to you. And so we got on a little bit of, well, it turned out to be international news at that point, and that is how Anthony Bourdain found out about us. But it was a fascinating experience, not only just media reaction, how city politics work. The really for me, the intriguing part was it really forced people to think about where they got their food. And even, I mean, as the current situation now is sort of forcing that question as well. And it was a crazy time. So yeah, there's some great stories.
I'm working a street cart, you know, on the mall in Denver, selling weird hot dogs, and that's the first time I've heard of you. You know, Chicago hot dog, you know, seller sells foie gras dog. Did you not get a fine for that? Didn't the city actually write you a ticket?
We did. We got a $250 fine. I still have the ticket. I asked a friend.
You'll pay him one day.
What was that?
You'll pay him one day.
Oh, no. Oh, I paid it, my friend. You know, because you quickly learn the city owns all the marbles. So it's like, yes, sir, we will pay that fine and let me be open again. And I asked a PR friend, is like, okay, so, what do you, think about that cost and what happened? And her response was, the standard line is, you can't pay for that kind of publicity, but if you could, and she said, you did very well. And I was like, I understand. I understand how that went.
That was, that's the first time I heard about it. And so you and I used to have not a competition exactly, but when there were people from Chicago coming to Denver, and they were customers and and patrons of yours, they would come in and say, yeah, Doug told me I should probably knock sodas on the floor and squirt mustard on the walls and stuff like that.
It's possible.
And my response was to give them business cards and tell them they were good for free hot dogs at your place.
Exactly.
And you were actually gracious enough to accommodate a few, although you did put notes on some of these hot dogs and send them back.
It's possible.
I have one.
Sassy
I still have one somewhere. I'm in the process of moving, so I can't find a razor. So consequently,
okay, sure.
The quarantine beard.
Understood. Yeah, that sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, aside from Bourdain,
yes,
who thrilled you to come into the shop?
One of the people in the movie, Omaro Cantu, who was one of the real pioneers in molecular gastronomy, and he opened the restaurant Moto in Chicago, and just one of the people in the culinary world who truly inspired me. He was doing stuff that, one, I couldn't figure out. Like I know a few things about cooking. He was doing stuff I have no idea how he did half his things, and just incredibly inventive, funny, just this really sort of larger than life character, and also someone who took their own life. This is taking a little bit of a dark turn, and I apologize for that. But he was this just this incredible influence on me. Not so much that I was doing molecular gastronomy, but really trying to just do new things, just try stuff, see how it works, to constantly be inventive, to constantly be, trying new things, and to do it with a sense of humor, and to do it to make it taste good. And that, as much as crazy and inventive as his food was, it also tasted good. And at the end of the day, that's, I think it was on one of Bourdain's shows where one of his guests said, there are two kinds of food, good and bad. And I totally agree with that.
I have a friend of mine who's a molecular gastronomist, and this guy can make anything 1,000 different ways. And he was on one of these donut competition shows, and he did this donut that was insane. And he didn't win the show. And what the judge said was really prophetic. He's going, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
That's exactly right. And we had a couple, we did a lot of different game sausages, as you do, and all different kinds of meats. And for me, it was never, sure, I wanted to do rattlesnake or do alligator, those kinds of things, because obviously it's unique and fun, but they also had to taste good. And there were a couple items that I had or tried that were unusual meats, and I never sold them because it would have been for the shock value, and I couldn't in good faith, like, yes, you should eat that because it's delicious, when it was most of the time inedible.
We do a rattlesnake pheasant dog.
Okay.
And we sell it a lot. And the first time I tasted it was fantastic. But the same company also made a rattlesnake rabbit dog.
Yes.
And the first time I tasted that, did you ever see the movie Desperado?
The Antonio Banderas?
Yeah, Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the movie where Quentin Tarantino, with this Mexican cat, goes into this bar, and Cheech Marin is tending bar, and he pours him a beer, and it sounds like the tap just farts into the glass. And they take a sip, and they get that look on their face. That was how that rattlesnake rabbit tasted to me. It was couldn't deal with it.
There were a couple of things. Someone sent me guinea pig meat. And she was like, all right, I'll try it, and sent me a sample of it, and it cooked it up, and it was like, oh gosh, this is terrible. And I felt, I called him up, I was like, I'm not going to order it. And he got really upset. And, and I almost said to him,
I've been raising those things for months for this.
Precisely. And my first response was, have you eaten this? Yeah, there's no way that you would think that this is worth selling, let alone eating.
So prior to our, isolation ship, have you had a chance to travel around a little bit? And if you have, whenever I go anywhere, I eat hot dogs. I like to see what's out there.
Always.
Who's one? Who have you seen out there that you've liked?
Oh, that's a good question. That's gosh, I have to think about that. There are a lot of places. I love having them in Europe, like hot dogs, because inevitably, like the bread is awesome, the mustard's great, and the hot dog is inedible, hands down. And
right.
I'm someone, I don't throw away food. I don't like to. There were a couple. The last time I was in Barcelona, and I got 2 bites in. Is like I can't finish this.
Right.
It was brutal. I apologize. I've never been to Denver.
I noticed.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. Well, as far as you know, I've never been to Denver. I've been to Haxton, Colorado. That's as far as I got, which is just under the Nebraska Panhandle, if I'm not mistaken.
I've repoed cars out of Haxton before.
Oh, there we go.
I've stolen cars everywhere in Colorado.
Got it. And I'm trying to think where else, I have a fondness. I went to college in New York. I still have a fondness for the Sabrett hot dogs. But to me, those are, you have one of those because, lunch is like 6 blocks away. Well, I'll have one of those on my walk to lunch. It's not actually like a meal.
On your way to lunch? I like the way you think. I'm going to have a hot dog on my way to lunch.
Precisely.
Same here.
Yeah, precisely right. And possibly after lunch, it's like, I could go a hot dog. I'm trying to think. So where else have I been? You're putting me on the spot. I have no idea.
Dat Dog in Louisiana, in New Orleans. Dat Dog.
I have not. He came into the restaurant. I did not. I'm trying to think. I've had him from, what's the cart? The super weenie.
The guy wrote the book.
John Kennedy Toole, the Confederacy of Dunces.
Yeah. I don't know. Can't remember. I did not get a chance to eat off of the cart. So yeah, Dat Dog was great. Austin has a place called Bangers.
They also have a place called Frank, which is oh boy, nice. Which I know the gentleman. I was happy. Trying to think where else. Usually carts, places. The Kenosha, I think it's the Kenosha Kingfishers minor league baseball team does their Wisconsin dog, which is cheese sauce and then fried cheese curds on top of the hot dog.
There you go.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I come up with weird ideas in my sleep, and that's usually, can I make this work with this?
Right.
And and often we'll just name a dog and try and figure out how to make the dog work behind it. So like the Thai Curious. Thai Curious dog was a fun one. That's what she said was an amazing dog to make.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I did. I had a purveyor, like my cheese purveyor, and I'd order like 20 pounds of something. She goes, every time, what are you going to do with that? And I'd be like, I think I'll put it on a sausage. It's like, and so a lot of times, like I would buy the cheese and then figure out, like something unusual. It's like, well, what can I match this up with?
That's what I noticed. You like use cheeses from other planets on your hot dogs.
It's true.
I've never heard of these cheeses before.
They were almost always like actual cheeses.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, can I ask her, one of the questions is, do you like the buffalo dogs at Wrigley? Came up on the chat. I'm going to have to say yes, because the owner of the Cubs, Tom Ricketts, is an owner of that company that makes the buffalo hot dog. So yes, they're delicious.
That was going to be a question that I was going to ask you. So how close to your original menu at Wrigley, or what are you using off of your original menu at Wrigley?
We only do 3 sausages each. Well, we did each homestand.
Right.
And it couldn't be, just the sort of the nature of a ballpark, the nature of the facility, what could be done. We definitely went much simpler than what I would do at the restaurant. Good stuff, absolutely. But it was definitely nothing like nothing really unusual.
You have to make it, accessible. And, the restaurant, my restaurant, we carry 15 different proteins and 8 different ways to top them.
Right.
We pare down to 4 things after like 10 p.m. if we're open late. You do not need the decision impaired to try and, figure out what they want,
That's exactly, no. You try to make it
4 combinations.
Precisely, make it easy on yourself,
And make it easy on the customer.
Yeah, absolutely right. Exactly.
So now, were you a chef before you started Hot Dogs? What was your history there in food?
So I started, most of my adult career was avoiding any semblance of a career. And I was actually very successful at that. Just would work for a while, take time off, work for a while. Got into food, mostly eating, and then really like cooking shows. Like the early, Jacques Pepin, Julia Child, Frugal Gourmet.
Graham Kerr.
Gourmet, exactly. And decided, found myself as well, I have the time and, I just want to learn how to cook and sort of figure out what I'm doing. And so went to cooking school. And then, which I loved, but no intention of owning a restaurant. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just wanted to one, stop working, go back to school, and 2, learn how to cook. And then I did for a very short period of time, worked on the line, worked in a restaurant, catering, some corporate dining, maybe 2 years, if that, and got a job as a cookbook editor, answered an ad in the paper. Back in the day, that's how you got a job, and did that for almost 6 years. And, so from that point decided okay, through a series of circumstances and serendipity, decided let's try this and let's do it now while I'm physically able to do it as well.
I don't know what you're saying. I'm, just because I'm older than you, doesn't mean that,
right,
doesn't play a part in my life.
Oh, no. And when people ask me now, would you do it again? It's I physically couldn't. I know what it takes, and I don't have it in me anymore.
Speaking of physically couldn't, what happens to the line if you have to run to the bathroom? I mean, I've never not seen you on the line. So where's that? I mean, do you have a little cup underneath the thing, under the stand? People were wondering if you had legs. It's
true. I was also on a riser, so when people see me now, they're always shocked at how much shorter I am. I never went to the bathroom. That's the kind of stud I am, my friend. Until about 4 weeks left in the restaurant, and when the line was crazy, and it was so we would stop the line at 4 o'clock, no matter what, whatever, even before the insanity. We would go on a Saturday, maybe till 4:45, maybe 5 o'clock at the latest. The first, about 4 weeks before the closing, we stopped the line at 4 o'clock. We served the last customer at almost 9 p.m. And that was we learned very quickly where 4 o'clock was in the line. When it reached this house, that's where we stopped the line. But that day I had to kind of said was the only time that I left the counter to use the bathroom. I know it's a fascinating story, but I kind of set it up with 2 of the front of the house people. So you're gonna come here, you need to clear a path, let me know when the bathroom's open, and I will be right back.
Right, yeah.
And the young woman who took over the counter announced to everybody, this is a momentous occasion, has never happened here in this restaurant.
Everybody ran up with a glass to the door.
Pretty much, exactly.
So we share some similar ideas around cooking, aside from the fact that you went to culinary school, and I went to journalism school, and so I should have been writing cookbooks or editing cookbooks, but instead I was stealing cars.
You think life is funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
let's kind of give a little opportunity for other people to ask questions, but
Yes.
one last thing, if not another last thing. I feel like Columbo. Oh, one other thing, Doug. If there were three things you could tell someone you know and liked that was opening a restaurant, what
Sure.
would you like to tell them?
One, don't.
Right.
Two, I take that back. I used to tell people, like, don't open a restaurant. Just don't do it. It's a terrible investment. And in some ways it is. But there was one person who I tried told that to, who opened up a barbecue restaurant in Chicago, which is fantastic. And I realized, like, oh, glad he didn't listen to me. So I stopped that advice. Know that it's a retail business. I don't care how good a cook you are. I don't care that you have your grandmother's recipes. I don't care that you love to cook. Good food is a I used to say a necessary but not sufficient aspect to a restaurant, but I don't think that's true. We all know a lot of very successful restaurants that have not great food. It's a retail business. You're taking care of customers. And a corollary to that is you got to know your numbers. You got to know exactly how much, when you serve somebody a hot dog, how much did that cost you, and everything involved in that cost. The fact that if you open a restaurant, every single thing in there you pay for, whether it's the cool air in the summer, that the hood system is sucking half of it out. I used to look when I first opened up at people and think, do you really need that much ketchup? I got over that, but just all those little things that you think, oh, we'll just do that, or just add, or just whatever. It's like, no, that's coming out of your pocket.
Did you not just utter a Chicago sacrilege?
I didn't say ketchup on your hot dog. I meant French fries. Yeah, I know. Everybody settle down. I know.
Hot dog Nazis of Chicago.
Precisely.
This is America, isn't it?
That's right. For now, there are no food rules, if do whatever you like. Third advice, come up with your concept and stick to it. Don't listen to everybody. Don't try to be everything to everybody, because then you're guaranteed to fail. When I first decided to do this, it's just going to be hot dogs and sausages. And my brother actually said to me, he's like, shouldn't you sell hamburgers too? And I said, well, I'll know in 6 months. And, I stuck to it, and it was going well enough that I was like, I'm going to stick to that. And this was my plan, is going to be in this time frame, these hours. And that's what we were going to do. And if it failed, I would go do something else. Next thing, really, really important, if you're going to open a restaurant, other people's money. Yeah.
Good thinking. Have you had a Bud Long hot chicken sandwich?
I have.
So Jared is a friend of mine, and so started in Chicago. He's moved out here to Denver. This guy cannot help but open up restaurants.
He actually closed one and reopened it like 4 months later, which I'm happy about, because it's like a mile from my house.
Awesome.
But yeah, it is there. It's, for some people, it's just like there's a need to do it. I needed to do one, and felt that was enough.
I think he's currently got 4 going right now in Denver, and with plans on opening another one. And they're successful. He looks at it exactly like you described. It's a business. He loves making food. He likes making people happy.
That's exactly right.
It's just that whole customer experience, something that you get, something that I feel that I understand, and I think he does as well.
Yep, and that's the game. It's when, and I think it talk about that in the movie, where you can compete customer service, and you take good care of people, and you treat them respectfully, and make them feel that they're the only person in the restaurant. You can be a success.
So now that you're not dealing with these regular jack-offs, what are you doing with yourself?
I see that. What are you doing these days? I got this tonight, so that filled up a few hours.
That covers this week.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's pretend it's pre, everything shutting down. Doing a little bit of licensing, as a matter of fact. So there's a hot dogs, sausages, very small rollout that we're slowly going to expand, I hope, in the near future as the manufacturer expands. I'm also working with a small beef jerky company called Think Jerky, thinkjerky.com, where it's a chef-driven jerky company, and that's been going very, very well. Trying to just figure out a few other ways to bring in income without any heavy lifting. And I mean that literally, like not lifting anything heavy. The ballpark is going
mailbox
well.
money if you could. Mailbox money if you could.
Yes, that would be just fine. Keep your overhead very low. We'll throw that as a fourth piece of advice. Check. Don't fall in love with a space. Check the rent and have a lawyer look over everything before you sign anything.
Never ever partner with your lawyer too. Just saying.
I'll take your word on that.
So some of your favorite restaurants in Chicago, how are they dealing with the COVID thing happening right now?
It's brutal, and I've been, needless to say, been asked, am I happy I don't have own a restaurant right now? And it's like, from a purely selfish standpoint, of course. Some places, a place, for instance, like a Budlong Fried Chicken, places that are set up more like your place, like mine, where the food can travel better.
Mm-hmm.
It's never pristine, but pizza, barbecue, hot dogs.
Hot dogs are somewhere halfway between pizza and Chinese food, I think, when it comes to take-home stuff. So
yeah, perfect, exactly. Like those guys, those places, some of them are doing incredibly well. Places that are, the higher end, where it's like a big restaurant and the food kind of doesn't travel, are getting killed, and it's heart-wrenching. There's no doubt.
People are going to go spend $80 a plate to talk to somebody wearing a mask? That's going to be a difficult sell. I think we're going to evolve into that, or Taco Bell is going to take over everything.
Maybe. I don't know. I've stopped guessing. At this point, I've truly stopped, because 4 weeks ago, completely different than today. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it's going to go. I think that if landlords are smart and some sort of empathy, a lot of restaurants will be able to open up at 25, then 40, then 50% capacity. At some point, we hope down the road, we'll be back, but it's going to take a little while.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we'll be, as a hot dog place, with a relatively low price point, we do count on volume.
Right, totally.
And much like Wrigley Field, we're in Coors Field, got a couple of locations there. We're at Red Rocks. We're doing Mile High Stadium, the Broncos Stadium. Yeah. It's not looking real good this year. So,
not so much, but no. if the hope is people can hang on a little bit, and kind of, if there was a way to just sort of hit the pause button and be able to start up when we can start up, would be, I'm hoping.
We're trying to get 3 nickels out of a dime right now, so we'll see how that works out.
Understood. By the way, speaking of if you see Ryan Spilborg, say hi for me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you better remember me.
Probably should. So we're getting a couple of questions rolling in here. Jeff Reed used to run the Chowder Fest when you were a judge a few years ago. He's happy to see you again. What are you doing without the Cubbies in the springtime? Well, you're making jerky, or you're trying to come up with fun jerky things.
Yeah, and just really missing baseball. And just trying to figure, just every day, just trying to take it truly just day by day.
Yep. Well, I got nothing.
Well, had you seen the movie before tonight?
I might have.
Okay.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I may have perused it. Yeah. It's called Repo Man, but
Sure, I understand. Exactly. Fair enough. Better soundtrack? No, not really.
No, not really.
Every time I see it, one, I'm pleased again that, as I forget everything, that, that there's a document of this. But also, to me, the restaurant looks like, it just strikes me, it looks beautiful.
It does. It does. There, the vibe in that place it's difficult to recreate anywhere else. And were you to start from scratch again, you would never get that same vibe going.
No, and that's what I sort of love about the story, is that there's this real beginning, middle, and end, real, its place and in its time. Here's the start, here's the end. And for those who got to go, for those who got to work there, I always joke that the person who would have loved it the most was the only person on the planet who really couldn't enjoy going there, me. And I always think it's like, wait a second, there's this place that has all these sausages, they're playing like punk rock music from the 70s, and there's a guy telling old Catskills jokes at the counter. This is awesome. But nope, couldn't go. But it was, and I also wanted to say I think it's in the opening where Michael opens the door. There's in the foyer is the big red foyer with that big blotch of paint missing. Bothers me every single time. And I always ask the director, you couldn't CGI that a little, fill that? Yeah, we didn't have the budget for that.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Hey, Sarah Brito wants to know, what would be your last supper? Would it be a hot dog? If you were on death row, next day you're done. They're bringing in whatever you want.
A Chicago hot dog would be involved. Absolutely. Do I get to? Is it the only thing I get? If I get,
I think you get what you want. So
okay, then there's definitely a Chicago hot dog would be in there. I'm thinking a corned beef sandwich would be in there, and a giant plate of fried chicken skin.
Ah,
yeah.
Perfect.
Among others, there might be a couple other things, but that's high on the list.
For me, it would be a reindeer sausage and sourdough pancakes. That would probably satisfy me.
All right.
Good start. When we came out that first time that I met you, we went to 6 places in about 2.5 hours. 3 hours. We started with you. Mark took us to the Vienna beef plant.
Okay.
Where we had fresh made corned beef sandwiches.
Yeah.
The Vienna beef plant, those were pretty awesome.
They make a fabulous corned beef. Yes.
We went to Jimmy's Red Hots after that.
Okay.
And then we went to Johnny's Italian Ices.
Italian beef.
Italian beef? Well, I mean, we went there for the Italian beef, but the Italian ice, oh my God, how can they do that with ice?
Yeah.
It's so creamy. So there's nothing in it but ice and some mystery liquid. I don't know. It could have been Maalox for all I know. It was freaking amazing.
Precisely.
We went to Gene and Jude's and then Paradise Pub.
Okay. Yeah. You hit the right places.
Yeah. No, well, Mark knew where to go. Mark knew where to go. That was a pretty phenomenal trip.
The one about creating a hot dog that represents the Cubs winning the World Series. What would it be? I would like to say, so timing, by the way, is everything. So I have, there's a stand in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. I was contacted by the Cubs about a month, 5 weeks after I closed the restaurant. And I was actually on vacation, and I was checking the email like every 3 days just to make sure nothing had blown up. And there was one from the Cubs, and I was like, I should probably look at this one. Mm-hmm. And, as an invite, do you want to talk about opening a place in the field? And I was just thinking, I just got out of this thing. And the one place that I would even for a moment consider reopening were the people who contact me, Wrigley Field. Yeah. And I got to see the Cubs win a World Series. So that was a good move saying yes. Mm-hmm. I will say that. Create one hot dog, just, I don't know, I'd probably age it for 108 years and then serve it up.
Yeah, mix it with some fermented duck egg, let's
exactly bury it.
Only you would like.
Just right. Bury it under center field, and then one day you'll 21,
time capsule
24.
Perfect.
We'll take it out. Yes.
Right. Doug, it's been really fun catching up. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to come eat your stuff.
Sure, I appreciate
One
that.
day you may have to make it.
It'll be six. It's I think the announcement was like almost 6 years exactly ago, and it'll be 6 full years in October.
Wow.
So close. Yeah. Some ways it feels like 6 years. Some ways feels like, you know, even longer and shorter than that. It's a very strange.
I am way too young to have this much history.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. It's worth a shot.
yeah, no, it's been a blast. I think our moderator host, let me see.
That's right. We're getting I think we're getting a little bit razzed here on the
yeah, a little bit. Well, Sarah,
Great.
who seems to really enjoy asking questions of you, you know,
I appreciate that.
once the quarantine is over, do you have a place where you would like to be? Where would you go? What would you do?
Oh gosh. You know, honestly, and I know this is going to sound trite, so I just want to enjoy Chicago. I just want to get out downtown, the lakefront. I am born and raised here. I'm fiercely proud of this city, with all of its issues, and it's so much of it is the good, and the people here are fantastic. And if not there, then like a little cafe in Paris, having a glass of wine would be just fine as well.
Looking over, you know, winking at Christian Bale as he's, you know, Batman on hiatus, you know.
Yeah, bridge, exact, sure. Okay. If by Christian Bale you mean Catherine Deneuve, then yes, that's what.
Okay, yes, by exactly.
Thank you.
Are
you throwing it back to Greg now?
Pardon me?
Are you throwing it back to Greg, or you can go?
Yeah, come on, Greg, take this thing. We've had enough of you. Wait, no, enough of me.
Thank you, everybody. A pleasure. Enjoy the movie.
Pleasure, man.
Thank you.
We don't have to throw it back to me. I mean, if there's more that you have to say.
Yeah, we want people to get their money's worth out of this.
Exactly. Both of them who are still watching. No, it's a little joke.
No, we've still got 38 people on.
Oh, awesome.
You know,
I can fix my hair again for the 20 plus who didn't see that.
Doug, if you know, if there's punk rock playing in the restaurant, what does the Clash hot dog look like?
Ooh, well, you know, I did name them one after Joe Strummer and then Paul Simonon as well. I'm trying to, I can't even remember which one it was, but I did name, we named all the hot dogs after, well, either both real and fictional people who I liked. So, gosh, anything they wanted. If Joe Strummer could come back to life and pop in the restaurant, he's one of the few people, if he called me up and said, you know, I can't get there until after 4, I would open it up myself.
I liked how you offered to put orders in by fax, especially when there's like, what, 1993 called.
Yeah, pretty much. And by the way, that one we kept it for literally one company, Electrical Audio, Steve Albini's recording studio. And I got to make lunch for Iggy Pop. And okay. It was at the studio. It was the only time I ever asked. And I told the person who came to pick up lunch, I was like, you don't have to tell me, but I know the recording there is one of these for Iggy. And he was like, oh yeah. And I kept the order sheet with which ones Iggy Pop had. That was very exciting.
That's an exciting day.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
All right, we're down to 37 people. I guess we got another 45 minutes or so. I mean, what else are we gonna do? I'm moving. So I moved today, and for some reason I rented a place that has a lot of stairs. So I've been carrying stuff up and down stairs for the last 2 days. So sitting here is actually a reprieve for me.
I went vice versa. I was on the 3rd floor for 15 years, moved to the 1st floor for the last 15 years. So, yeah.
I need the exercise. So, I've actually been, you know, most of my friends are gaining weight during this thing. I've been losing weight because I'm not going out to eat 5 times a week.
Likewise, actually walking way more, eating smarter, I guess. And
I eat pancakes every damn day, man. So I don't know that smart is really relatable for me, but you know, whatever I'm doing is working.
Yeah, I'm here. If I could cut out the 5 o'clock cocktail hour, I'd be a shell.
If I could sleep, I'd be a genius. You know.
Yeah.
One thing I did do with that biker gym dog that you came up with was the next year they had the Democratic National Convention here in Denver, and so I wanted to roll out with something fun. So I did that lamb sausage. I threw that same raita dressing on it. I sold it with a bag of chips, a Coke, and a ding dong, and I sold it as the Obama Llama Ding Dong.
I see what you did there.
Sold out every day. That was a good move. I made enough money that week to buy a second hot dog cart.
Nice. All right.
You guys ever come up with a dessert hot dog?
What was that? Oh, a dessert hot dog? The closest we ever came, so Vosges Chocolate is in Chicago, and they were actually near the restaurant and this high-end chocolate manufacturer, and they did a bacon chocolate, which we did on a sausage. If I can remember, it was like an apple pork sausage. I want to say it's like a pear cream, and then chunks of this bacon chocolate. And when I was playing with it to come up with the combination, it took a while. And when I finally hit on that combination, like I kept trying it thinking, I'm not sure if this works, but I also can't stop eating it. So let's see what happens. And it did really well. And that's the closest I've come up with.
I mean, a cannoli is practically that, but it's still not that.
Yeah, no, not so much dessert. Who wouldn't have a hot dog for dessert is my feeling.
Oh, okay. So Chris wants to know if we're going to collab. Well, we sort of did today.
I think we just did. Exactly. I wouldn't hold, I don't, maybe, you never know. I'm not going to say, you never say never. The greatest advice my dad ever gave me was, you never know.
Well, and a lot of people would say, well, why don't you do duck fat fries? Why don't you do a foie gras dog? And I'm like going, because Doug's done that. Let me try something a little differently.
My response is, why don't you do it? But
yeah,
when people say, why don't you open past 4? It's like, why don't you open past 4? I'm happy I get to 4 o'clock.
I like your model.
Yeah.
Your model was very effective.
I always said it with a smile. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, I love when random customers have the advice on how you should run your business.
Totally.
I'd always try to make an appointment at their office.
Yeah, precisely. So what is up with the Britney Spears picture? That's actually so there was a hot dog named after Britney on the menu for a while, and my dad got that for me. He was a doctor, and at the hospital they had some like memorabilia sale or something, and he brought that in, and it was hanging up at the restaurant. And then someone told me he's like, that's incredibly valuable because she doesn't sign very much. So I'm banking my retirement on that, baby. Let's hope so.
Nice. That's that's going to be right up there with any sort of signed baseball you might have.
Sure, there's a couple of Cubs things lying around somewhere. The first thing I did after I closed the place, I slept for an incredibly long time. The sheer exhaustion, just getting through the last 6 months, but especially that last month, just was wiped out. Once I got out of bed, actually took an RV trip down into the Smoky Mountains. We rented an RV and drove around Kentucky, the Smoky Mountains, down to Charleston. It was great. So I did that.
I'd like to thank Red Elk Banks for picking up some food from Biker Jim's tonight, telling me that it traveled really well. So today was the first day that we'd been open for a couple of months.
Oh, well.
Pretty happy to hear that some people are digging the food.
That's good. Yeah,
somebody wants to know what the next big thing we're going to put on the menu is.
What's the next big thing you're going to put on the menu, Jim?
I don't know. I'm going to do an Eggs Benedict dog.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It does. See, this is how inspiration works.
I always wanted to do we just never, sometimes there were just things that you wanted to do that we just couldn't because of the limitations of the space and the just volume. It was like, just some things were just really hard to do.
Right. Yeah. And we like to go there, but we also, like you said earlier, It's a retail business.
Yeah.
And there is a perceived value to a hot dog. And I believe you have pushed that envelope. I've pushed that envelope.
Yeah.
We're probably the most expensive hot dog in Denver. Doesn't seem to bother people after they've eaten it.
Correct. But you would get, I get a lot of that, like $8 for a hot dog. I was like, no, well, I'm trying to think. The smart ass answer is like, how much did you pay for your car? I guarantee it was 5 times more than what I drive. So yeah.
Yeah. When I was on a street corner, learning how to be a street vendor, and I was also the most expensive hot dog out there because people are, much like you eschewed a lot of people's advice on how you should run your business. I decided what I was going to do, and it wasn't going to be a dollar hot dog. And people are saying, you need to have a dollar hot dog. You need to have that lost leader. And I'm like, no. And when people would come up and they'd go, $4, this was going back in time a little ways, $4 for a hot dog, I would just point to the guy across the street that didn't have a line.
Yeah.
This is $1. You can go over there.
Exactly. And you know who can have a loss leader? Walmart. You and me? No. There's no losses. Everything's a leader.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's like, can't do that. Exactly.
Right. Robin Nolan, she went to biker gyms. I'm going to quit, talking about everybody that goes to my restaurant, but I've seen 2 so far, and thank you.
Robin Nolan also. Why did I take only cash? Purely. If Mr. Cheney is watching this, I reported everything. Honestly, there was a part of me, it always struck me as like slightly subversive and very like just sort of old school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and also faster. We also, tax was included and everything. So if it said $3, you gave me $3. And I just sort of enjoyed the fact that we were the rare place that did that. And it just made everything so much easier. And I'm also a fan of not giving major banks any more of my money than I have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did your ledgers in pencil, and people round up so much easier.
Ledgers?
We don't need no stinking ledgers.
No, absolutely right. I mean, the accounting just so much faster. And if I was the only person, doing all of that stuff, I'm making it easier on myself.
Somebody did a COVID coney dog.
COVID. I was waiting for some COVID bit in there.
They know how to sell it. We wanted to do a pandemic survival kit, but I don't know about actually, a COVID coney dog.
Oh, do you think the hot dog is the cure to COVID-19? The hot dog is the cure to everything.
True that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it cured my desire to steal cars for a living.
There we go. See? Yeah, absolutely.
This is fun.
Greg, do you have any questions for us? You've been very patient sitting there in the corner.
Man, you guys make me. I've got too many questions.
Well, let's hear some. I know the mushrooms are kicking in now, but why don't you go for it?
Yeah, you could tell by the way the light is a little bit funny in here. I'm starting to turn.
You're out of focus for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. I lied. I don't have questions.
And done.
I have to say I've enjoyed listening to this. I was especially the question about why only take cash. There are a couple of restaurants here in Boulder that only do it, and it's and to be honest, those are some of the better ones. Those are some of the ones that I really enjoy going to. So I think it is kind of a subversive was the word you used, but it's kind of a nice little twist, and it makes you have to prepare. It makes you have to really want to go. And when you have lines out the door and you want to go, that's an important thing.
I'd like to point out there are people, we never turned anyone away who didn't have cash. We always told them, sit, eat, come back and pay me. I think I got burned once in 14 years. And there were also people who, I was like, look, don't worry about it. Buy someone else lunch. When, they were like, oh, I live in, wherever town in another state. And I was like, well, then just buy someone else lunch. And I got, a couple cards back, saying thank you. And those are the kinds of things that it's like, not turning, you don't take food away from somebody.
Yeah. The pay it forward concept lives.
I would also,
live.
Yeah, I'd also admonish them for, didn't your mother ever tell you never to leave the house without $20 in your pocket?
Your mom told you to keep $20. Mine was all about underwear. I don't know what where your mom kept.
No, yeah.
I heard the best quote the other day, and I think you just kind of exemplified it right there. We're wired for generosity, but we're educated for greed.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
made so much
Yeah.
sense to me because I'm generous and empathetic to a fault.
And I think anybody who's in the restaurant business is. You don't get into this business because I'm going to make $1 million. I'll open up a hot dog stand. It's the joke about, and it applies to a number of professions, but how do you get $1 million in the restaurant business? Start with 2 million.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is like everybody, restaurants constantly getting asked to donate food, and we all did. And they still continue to do. And it is an unbelievably generous, empathetic group of people who are cooks and who own restaurants. And it's one of the great, again, I feel so incredibly lucky to be part of that community.
Well, I think you summed it up because the financials just make no sense at all.
None
to try and get into this thing. And yet up until, a couple of months ago, there would be a new restaurant opening every 3 days in Denver. Every 3 or 4 days, there'd be 200 new restaurants a year opening in Denver. There'd be 125 closing.
Right.
But it's
brutally hard.
There's projects live, I think.
There's a wonderful article in the New York Times magazine. Excuse me, the chef, and her name's escaping me. Gabrielle Hamilton, is that right? Who owned the restaurant Prune in New York, talking about the restaurant business. It was probably within the last 3 weeks or so. Should be readily available. Just anybody really interested in the restaurant business and what it takes and the factors against you, a tremendous read. Heartbreaking in many ways, uplifting in many ways, but just I think really captures what it's like to own an independent restaurant.
Yep. Oh. And Jamie Heitman just responded to that and read that article and thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, agreed.
Let me see. So Lisa Lee wants to know about your potatoes. Were they Idaho potatoes?
Is that to me or to you?
No, to you.
Oh, okay. Yes, they were. That was one of those deals where you just got to kind of look long term. In November to March, great quality, cheap, fantastic. March to November, expensive still, because we'd go up and just say we need to maintain that quality. So we would slice them, hand slice everyone, hand crank. Benjamin did it every morning, and then we'd wash them in buckets, and which also helped to take some of the starch out of them.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, they were Idaho potatoes.
Benjamin probably looked like Morty from that one Rick and Morty episode, with the giant.
Just the one arm.
Just the one. Yeah.
The left arm, not so much, but the right arm. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I felt like that in high school, but that's another story.
Got it. I got from the movie. Oh, there you go. So yes. But so they went into buckets of in water, and then were dumped into other buckets when they got moved to the line.
And then when the moisture content would change in the potatoes, it just, ugh.
Yeah, it's just.
That's why you had one guy doing your potatoes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So guys, I'm getting the hook from the side stage. I wanted to just kind of step back and mention that, bring light to the fact of what you said is that, people who are in this business are, they're always looking to help. They're always looking to stick a hand out and help the cause. That's something that's evident here tonight. Doug, it was great that you joined us. It was great to talk. It was great to hear from you and to hear your story. It was something that was as entertaining as anything else that we've watched in this series. And Jim, you've helped us out countless times with donations and at our fundraisers, at our
I love coming to I love to come and cook at your events. That's always been a highlight for me. So I'm glad I was able to do this. And Doug, when I get my movie, you're coming, right? You'll
Oh,
be
absolutely.
All right,
I'll be
perfect.
there. Absolutely. And also that'll, of course, will be sometime after your book. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, my book is going to be titled "I'm Really Smart. You'd Just Be Hard Pressed to Prove It."
Oh, nice. By the way, this baby sold well over 12 copies and only 11 of them to my dad. So that's not bad.
Dozens sold.
Exactly. Nice.
That's a success. But yeah, guys, again, really thank you for being here tonight and for talking. Jim, thanks for always being part of what we're doing.
Sure.
Greg, a pleasure. Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure, man. It's good to see you.
Likewise.
Get a haircut. Hippie.
All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight and sticking around. That was some great discussion. I think we're all lucky to have been able to listen to that and to be a part of that. Let's see. Again, the shirts and the bundles are available on the Eventbrite website where you bought your tickets. That's going to help us put on a festival later this year. It's going to help us kind of keep moving forward. So we're looking forward to any support that we can get from you on that. Additionally, the weekend of the 29th, the Dinner and Movie Smorgasbord is on sale now. You can find that. You can find that at our website. We'll probably mention it in a follow-up email that we send you, thanking you for joining us tonight. And there's going to be a survey coming through. We are interested in who you are. We're interested in what you're interested in, so that we can help tailor this festival more towards you in the coming months and years as we try to grow. It helps us. The more information we get helps us show you the movies you want. It helps us earn grants from different cities, Boulder, Lafayette, Louisville. So thanks again, guys. This has been a great night. I hope you had a good week, and I hope you're off to a good weekend. Stay safe out there, and wash your hands.